Hello, you're on the road less traveled with Gary L. and Gigi's Boo on RealLibertyMedia.com. It's 7 p.m. and what day is this? It's the 17th of September 2017. Hello, Gigi's Boo.
Hey, Gary L. Hey, chat room.
What's up? What's up? How's
Not
everything
much.
going? How's everything going today?
Going well.
Going well.
Going well. Yeah.
Except for Atticus.
Oh, gosh. He's been made to stay outside for 2 days. Comes in at night. And so this morning, he did not mean to spend outside. And so he ran and hid, and he's as black as night, so I couldn't find him. I had to leave him while I went to church. And when I came in, he just sat there and dropped his head and let me preach to him. But I put him out anyway. And he stayed out a good part of the afternoon. He hates outside. He wants to go out and come in. He's kind of lazy. He wants to lay up. Gary was laughing last night because I made him stay out for 2 days and he had dirt on his nose. You could see that, and that's very unusual for him. But the dirt was red and you could see his dirty nose.
Yeah, so, that's all you could see was a nose floating around. There's a nose, and there has to be a dog on the other end of that nose.
That's it.
But he's just flat ass rotten.
Oh God, yes, he does not want to go out, and unless he hears the cops, he's friends with every cop that comes by, and they go by and they see him out, and they give him a little whoop whoop. And they'll holler, "Hey, wild man," and he'll run the fence, and some of them have stopped and talked to him. And somebody asked us one time why the police were always at our house. Trust me, we're not committing a crime. They're here to see Atticus.
That's right. Tell the people about Clydesdale.
Oh, we have a gentleman that comes by here, and, dogs will mostly bark at everybody. It's just their instinct that they will bark at everybody. But I don't know this gentleman's name, but my little niece calls him Clydesdale. She said he walks with his feet like the Clydesdale horses. And they will not utter a word to him at all. They see him coming from down the street. As soon as they see him, they're very quiet, very well behaved. And even our big dog, who is half lab and half boxer, she's very territorial. She doesn't mind jumping at the fence at anybody that comes up. And if you come in the fence, you're dead meat. She can get to you. But she will go up to the fence, and he will stop. And he will just openly open his palms, and he'll put it palms first up to the fence. And she'll speak to him. And he just kind of talks to him, and all of them, and they like him. So we don't know the connection at all, but undoubtedly this man has an honorable spirit, a gentle spirit, because I've always said people like people, but if a dog doesn't like somebody, you better pay attention to that dog. So this man has got to be a good man. And he just loves all of these dogs here, and they seem to be crazy about him.
Yeah, and I think you kind of hit on a topic there that's often overlooked. I mean, not everybody is bad.
No.
There are a lot of good things happen in life. There are a lot of good people who try to their utmost to do good things. And do any examples of that stand out to you right now?
Oh, yes. There's people all over the world that are good. And it's just, there's good people in the world all the time. I've got a story or two to tell about that and about good neighbors helping people. Again, the South, we rallied and things of that sort. But I've only seen one other man who could walk into this area and calm the dogs the way that he does, and that's our holy man. And he just walks in, and he talks to them, they talk to him, he can tell you exactly what they're saying. And it's almost, people will say, do you really believe that that man knows what those dolls are saying? And I said, do you really believe that he doesn't? Because it's so obvious what they talk about. So with everything, there is a season. And at one time, we believed that everybody spoke the same language. So yeah, it's there. There's good people in the world.
Yeah, there is. And I think part of the control mechanism, and we hear a lot about that, about trauma-based mind control, something that you're unfortunately quite familiar with.
Very much so.
Causes us to become conditioned to focus on the negative. And I mean that even at the very base levels. It's well known well known in some circles that whatever you think about is what you ultimately become. So if you're thinking about negative things, or even if you're thinking about not wanting negative things to happen, you're still focused on the negative, right? So, that seems to be the unfortunate common condition among many people. And there are a few out there that didn't bite off on that, or learned how to get away from that. And it's effectively when one is caught up in that unfortunate condition, it's effectively the same as knitting your own chains, as old Jacob Marley talked about in the Christmas Carol, and asking Ebenezer, or showing Ebenezer that through his life he's weaving each link of the chains that he will be wearing, or he will recognize that he's wearing at a later date. So it's all kind of the same thing. Does that make any sense to you?
Oh, yeah. A lot. Not a sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, there was kind of, we weren't here last week, and it was just an unfortunate string of events, and life is not a rose garden.
That's right. Not all the time.
Contrary.
90% of the time, we try to look at it as a rose garden, but it's not always.
All right. And it's always a work in progress, which goes back to what we were talking about just a minute ago. That the reflections that are coming back to us, that the energy that's generally being put out into the world is that of a negative type. So subsequently, it's almost like having to live in a bomb shelter, a anti-radiation suit or something, to try to keep all that crap from being absorbed within your system, and therefore causing you to become out of harmony, to a non-resonant member of our universal organism, for lack of a better description. And that's part of our undoing. That's part, as Hal talks about in his show Behind the Woodshed from 3 to 5 here on reallibertymedia.com every Sunday, talks about the fact that I have lost my train of thought. My train just left the station without me. Wait, he talks about the fact that these whatever they are, creatures, know us far better than we know ourselves. And that we, in most every case, we voluntarily consent to our own enslavement, either tacitly or actively. You voluntarily consent to that. Gremner just made a comment that your plans are not important to the universe. Yeah, to the extent that your plans are not in harmony with the universe, and the universe being all of creation, everything, then it doesn't matter, because ultimately it will just run you over like a freight train. So, and that's really the unfortunate aspect about those who think that they got it all figured out, that we can rig the system, we can make the system work to our benefit, and everything, we're going to alter everything and create it in our own images. In for a rude awakening. That's not going to happen. It's a little bit like deferred karma. The longer that you put off negative karma, the harder it will hit you when it comes.
Yeah.
Something to bear in mind. Any thoughts?
People can say what they want to about karma, but it's a bitch.
Yeah. I mean, it is just the natural order of things. I mean, it's just every action has a reaction. Every cause has an effect, and conversely, every effect has a cause. So we can sit there and just coincidence theory the hell out of stuff, but ultimately, there's a logical and rational cause that is behind every effect. Just sometimes it's hard to see that. And sometimes that cause may have occurred sometime in the past. I mean, you've heard of the butterfly effect, right? Gigi's book?
Yeah.
It's kind of something like that. Anyway, you have any thoughts along those philosophical lines?
No, I'm not the one that has all those deep thoughts you do. I'm more on the surface. You have to bring me back once in a while.
I don't know about all that, but no. Let's touch on a little bit of news. And I think you had something you want to discuss too, but maybe you'd like to hold on to that till the end.
Whatever you want to do. Yeah, sure.
Because I think you can end us up maybe on a little more of a positive note.
Sure.
And we try to do that occasionally. As hard as it is, like I said, the world is, as a result of being taken out of resonance, it's chaos. It creates a chaotic circumstance that, I mean, you can see the effects of which all around us. It's all chaos. And as far as what one might consider a natural order. But here's one, and I put this up first because it's really important. And before a lot of you guys' eyes gloss over and you click out and you're gone, you really probably need to hear this, because especially if you're into that bootstrapping, prepper kind of individualism kind of stuff. Better watch out for Amazon. I think we talked about the fact that Jeff Bezos has taken over Amazon, also the Washington Post, and also Whole Foods now, interestingly. But Amazon, in an article put out by Natural News, September 14th, has been caught up selling illegal full automatic gun parts. And guess where that came from? That was part of an ATF sting operation to snag people who order these parts. Believe it or not. Amazon right in the middle of it. In addition to the fact that Amazon is now the world's largest marketplace of contaminated and untested dietary supplements and food, a Natural News investigation confirms that it has rolled out a gun-running sting operation to get its own customers charged with felonies by the ATF. Amazon, which has always prohibited the sale of firearms, has been openly selling a Glock-compatible full automatic conversion device that turns a pistol into a fully automatic weapon. And they are not linking to the page for the simple reason that Amazon is running a trap. And they don't want anyone to accidentally fall in and spend 10 years in federal prison for buying such a device. And guess what? For a mere $68, you can give an ATF agent a collar. And you'll be charged with felony crimes for illegally possessing Class 3 firearms conversion devices. While there's not a link, there is a screenshot of the sale page. Also, a screenshot of some of the comments that some of the more savvy Amazon people placed into the And so, you thought that Amazon was a safe place to buy things. What do you think, Gigi's Boo?
Well, just another way for the government to try to regulate you, tell you what you can do and what you can't do.
That's
I was talking to somebody the other day, some businessman, and we were just talking about the way everything had come about in the United States, and I just said, it's going to end. The bullshit is going to end. That's words I used. I said, people are tired of the way that this country's being run, and they are going to take it over again. We, the people, will take our country back at some point. And the first thing come out of that guy's mouth was, hush, 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 hush. Don't talk that. Be quiet. Because, they've got things, listening devices everywhere. They can hear you. I said, so what? Come get me. You're going to give me 3 hots on a cot, But, yeah, there's traps set everywhere. Everywhere. It's unbelievable.
Well, aren't you just describing a condition of chaos?
Yep. Or they think it's going to be chaos.
No, it's already chaos.
Yeah, it's not going to be to me because I'm ready.
No, I'm talking about the system that would allow, well, not allow, but a system that takes such actions against other people.
Yeah, is
a chaotic system. It's attempting to control, attempting to, as you said, regulate in a certain way the comings and goings of people. Yeah, it's crazy, and it takes on a life of its own. One thing leads to another, and one statistic, one report, one promotion, one court case, it's just a system that's perpetuating itself in a negative way, and that is the same thing as a chaotic system. It's chaos. It's creating nothing but negative outcomes, and ultimately, it will collapse under its own weight. And one of those manifestations of collapse is just exactly what you described. There will be elements that come forward that will counteract the chaos. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to become all unicorns and pretty flowers and all that crap, but it means that the chaotic system will have reached such a disharmonious level that it blows itself up. Don't know how to say that. But as I said, blows it up. That probably hit the ATF keywords. But see, that's what I'm talking about. If you think about it, all these little things like these keyword searches and all this data siphoning and storage, it's nothing but it's a little bit like our Federal Reserve or monetary system or so-called economic system. That is nothing but a huge Ponzi scheme. And what happens to Ponzi schemes ultimately? They completely implode, as this system will. And it's just one manifestation of a corrupted system. And anytime you try to game the system, or game any system for that matter, you're going to end up ultimately building up some type of karmic reaction. Right, Gigi's Boo?
Yeah, that's right.
So when that happens, then everyone's surprised. Oh my, how could this happen? Well, because you're a dumbass. You didn't see this coming. You should have heard it like a freight train coming down the rails. And if you happened to be sitting on the tracks when it came, sorry for your luck. But Walmart, of course, Walmart and Publix, Publix, apparently a supermarket that I'm not familiar with. Walmart, Publix received recalled products from Country Fresh Orlando, LLC. Bilo and Harvey's, Winn-Dixie, and Fresco y Mas had already canceled these orders. But this recall is related to fresh-cut vegetable packages, including diced bell peppers, vegetable kebabs, and Creole and fajita mixed diced vegetables. The products are packaged under the Market Side brand for Walmart. That's the Market Side brand. The House brand for Publix supermarkets, or the Country Fresh brand. I've seen the Country Fresh one. The original recall was issued in early September, and reports identified Southeast Grocers LLC as the recalling entity, and they were recalled for Listeria contamination. Gigi's Boo, how do vegetables become infected with Listeria?
Personally, I think it's planted, in the vegetables, maybe tampered with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you hear all those stories of where the produce and everything was coming out of Mexico that year, and they fertilized all the crops with human waste, and people had hepatitis, and it grew up into the vegetables. I find that very hard to believe. I think all this stuff that's added is put there. I don't think any vegetable would grow with a virus or Hep C or anything like that. I really don't. I just don't see. I think it's man-made. I think in packaging they put it in.
Yes.
You remember the dentist that was I believe he was down in Texas, and he had HIV. And he infected several of his patients. I'm not saying several, I'm talking a bunch. He infected them, and they said it was because he didn't clean his instruments. They later found out he didn't do it. He infected them with his own blood while he was working on their mouth. Misery loved company.
Yeah, but there again, it goes back to that fear factor, doesn't it? And I'm trying to figure out, and actually FDA is a little bit cagey about talking.
You're not going to tell you anything about that.
Talking about the sources of Listeria. They talk about what it does. All right, here we go. Now, according to Wikipedia, if you want to buy that, it says Listeria can be found in soil, which can lead to vegetable contaminations. It has been found in uncooked meats, uncooked vegetables, and fruits such as cantaloupes, apples, and pasteurized or unpasteurized. How would it live in pasteurized milk?
Heaven's sakes if I know. I don't believe it would. Not the way they heat that up.
However, contamination may occur after cooking and before packaging. Meat processing plants producing ready-to-eat food, such as hot dogs and deli meats, must follow extensive sanitation policies in order to prevent Listeria contamination. Listeria is commonly found in soil, stream water, sewage, plants, and other food.
There you go with your sewage. Yeah,
it's just an interesting thing.
But then again, let's go back to talking about how you catch stuff. They're teaching them now not to start IVs without gloves on and this, that, and the other. That might be so, but remember, universal precautions. Universal precautions is all that it takes. Washing your hands. Go back to all your vegetables that are grown. Anybody that buys those things already cut up, do they take them and just open them and dump them in their food? That's stupid. You're going to wash them, aren't you? Even if they're cut up. I do. I don't know about anybody else, but I do. So I just think it's laziness on a lot of people's part.
Yeah, and, I hate to always come across conspiratorially, but I'm not saying every case is artificially induced, let's say, but I think it does happen. And I think it probably happens for a lot of reasons, for competitive reasons, for reasons of fostering the medical pharmaceutical mafia. I think it does happen in an artificial world as well. So, it's just weird to me when those sorts of things happen. Here's an article that everyone is going to just be shocked and astounded by. In the website realclimatescience.com, they say that journalism and science quality has reached a stunning new record low. Who would have thought it, Gigi's Boo? Journalism and science quality has reached a new low. That's amazing. They say that last year, experts announced that the Arctic would be ice-free in 2017. And they cite several: Guardian.com, Independent.com, WeForum.org. All of them said that the summer ice cover at the north would be ice-free, and it's going to happen in the summer of 2017. During the winter, they announced that the ice was melting at minus 30 centigrade. It had shrunk to a record low. More articles. NSIDC.org. NASA, Washington Post, New York Times, Scientific American, The Guardian again, Weather.com, and USA Today all underscored the minus 30 centigrade melting. And this is kind of along the fake news front, do you think?
Well, I don't see it melting yet.
No.
But we better call Al Gore to be sure.
Al Gore. It says here, experts say the Arctic polar cap may disappear this summer. From ChinaView.cn. So it's not just a Western phenomenon, is it? Because in Xinhua news source, they say the polar cap in the Arctic may well disappear this summer due to global warming. And they cite Dr. Olav Orheim, head of the Norwegian International Polar Year Secretariat, as the source. And it just goes on and on. You go back to 2008. National Geographic said that the North Pole may be ice-free for the first time this summer. Every summer it's becoming ice-free, Gigi's Boo. And then they said the same thing for 2012 and 2013 and 2014 and 2008. No real news in that. I just thought everyone would find that rather amusing. But it also underscores the fact that you can't trust anything you're hearing. Don't trust in. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusion. You certainly don't become one of these people who
don't blindly follow. I said you don't blindly follow.
No, do your own research. Come on now. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Okay, but this is an unbelievable Gigi's Boo. What do you think about...
Wait just a minute.
Uh-oh. Time out.
Oh, just a second. Okay, now. Okay.
All right. What do you think about a brain-machine interface?
Please.
You can interface your brain with the machine. Sounds like a movie, doesn't it? Or several. Mm-hmm. In Wired magazine, of all things. It's a story that talks about essentially the technology that's being used to interface your brain with a computer, I guess. It says 2017 has been a coming out year for the brain-machine interface, also known as BMI. How nice. A technology that attempts to channel the mysterious contents of the 2.5-pound glop inside our skulls to the machines that are increasingly central to our existence. The idea has been popped out of science fiction and into venture capital circles, underline that, faster than the speed of a single moving of a signal moving through a neuron. Facebook, hello, Elon Musk, and other richly funded contenders, such as former Braintree founder Brian Johnson, have talked seriously about silicon implants that would not only merge with us with our computers, but also supercharge our intelligence. Let's stop right there. I don't see how that can have any impact whatsoever on our innate intelligence. What do you think about that, Gigi's Boo?
Yeah, I think you're born with it, you develop it, and that's it. I don't think you can merge anything into the brain. I think you ought to leave the brain alone.
Well, I don't think it's going to make you any more intelligent. Now, on the other end of things, if you were to network a whole lot of people into this same technology, you could effectively make the technology a lot more intelligent, couldn't you?
Maybe, but
as far as the individual is concerned, I don't think it's going to make a big difference one way or another. And I'm not going to beat up that story anymore. And just a lot of detail, as Wired stories typically go. However, it does segue into another story. Australian tech expert issues a dire warning about the dangers of killer sex robots.
Dear God.
That sounds like the next B movie. I think RLM ought to get on the wagon here and start producing this movie. Killer sex robots. The newest threat to humans may not be nuclear weapons or climate change, but rather robots intended for intimate purposes that could suddenly turn deadly. Even worse, they can be armed with knives or guns. Somehow this sounds a little fear-pornish to me, but we'll go on. Cybersecurity expert Dr. Nick Patterson recently voiced his concerns about the killer sex robots, cautioning that hackers could take control of the devices and turn them into wanton killing machines. Actually, Elon Musk has previously warned about killer robot armies, calling artificial intelligence research tantamount to summoning a demon. But Dr. Patterson believes the danger actually lies in hackers taking control. He said, the last thing you want is for a hacker to have control over one of these robots. Once hacked, they could absolutely be used to perform physical actions for an advantageous scenario or to cause damage. They have. It would definitely have one in a compromised position, wouldn't it, Gigi's?
Very much so.
Oh boy, but sex robots turn out to be a booming field in artificial intelligence. And Hal talks about how far we have fallen. The race is on to build the first mass-market robot erotic companion. Harmony, a $15,000 robot created by Matt McMullen at Abyss, that's a very prophetic name. Abyss Creations is programmed to be docile, submissive, and built like a porn star. I'll tell you what, I know Bill Clinton, get him one of those. Oh, man. Some sex robots have been programmed with actual personalities, and there are others that need to be seduced. I just thought that was so far out there. Yes, Killer Sex Bot, the sequel. You know, it was cool. I don't know how many of you remember Clint Richardson. He premiered his new talk show podcast over on UCY.tv today at 5 p.m. He went from 5 to 7. Good to have Clint back on the air coming on right after Hal Anthony. So you have Hal from 3 to 5 and Clint from 5 to 7. And then we come along most of the time for what it's worth. Oh, okay. Gigi's Boo had to step out for a second. See what we got. Here's a good. How much time? Oh man, we are running out of material here. But that's let's.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
There's little things going on. I apologize to everybody.
Let me hit this last story here,
Okay.
then you can take over. I'll see if I can. This one, actually, another one of those unusual stories I thought folks might find interesting. Also, it kind of flies in the face rather of certain paradigms that exist out there. But Gigi's Boo won't be surprised by this, because Science News reports that a skeleton ignites a debate about Viking warriors. Because the DNA analysis of the bones buried with full battle gear turned out to be female. Viking warriors have a historical reputation as tough guys with an emphasis on testosterone, but scientists now say that DNA has unveiled a Viking warrior woman who was previously found in a roughly 1,000-year-old grave in Sweden. Until now, researchers had assumed she was a he, buried with a set of weapons and related paraphernalia that was worthy of a high-ranking military officer. But, as it turns out, the DNA identified the first female Viking to have participated in that as what was long considered a male pursuit. Now, since it took them a while to figure out that one was a female, perhaps some of the other graves will be DNA tested, and we may find that there were others as well. Because I doubt seriously that this was an isolated case. Question posed: have we found the Mulan of Sweden, or a woman buried with the rank symbols of a husband who died abroad? So you see, let me just touch here for a minute and see how quickly the resistance comes up against, a paradigm protection, if you will, paradigm protection force. We got to come up with all these alternative explanations other than the obvious one. Although the new newspaper dubs the long-dead woman a high-ranking female Viking warrior, other interpretations of her identity are possible. She notes, though, this is another scientist, notes that the Viking woman was an exception in a sphere dominated by men, either if she was an active warrior or if she was only buried in full warrior dress with a complete set of weapons. You see how they start reaching, trying to come up with some. It's like unbelievable. You see it happening right in front of your face here. How science is so dogmatic that they will go to almost any extent to try to discredit something that looks like a very, very clear-cut piece of evidence. That was actually the takeaway I wanted. You can read this article yourself, but it just, I'm sitting here saying, this is what they do. And it actually kind of ties in with that fake news stuff. This is anything to hold on to a belief system. Don't confuse me with facts. Kind of.
Well, I have a little debate on that.
Go ahead.
I think women in every society had to war. You take the Cherokee women, we didn't per se go to war. We were at home while our husbands were at war. We were just like through the generations, we stayed there. We could protect that village, and we did. And if the village was attacked, we would fight along with our husbands and our sons. And I think that would be in any society, a woman is going to war. She's going to take care of her family. Even today, you remember during the 40s when the men went off to war and there was nobody to run the machines and make the torpedoes and everything else. Well, the women went to the plants to work, but when the war was over, they came home and did what they were supposed to. Be wives and mothers and take care of the home. And then in the 60s and 70s, there was a breakdown in society. But I truly believe this might be a woman that you're talking about in here, because I think she probably stood and did everything she could to protect her family. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong. And I think society tries to make too much out of it. Women didn't necessarily want a war. We warred when we had to. So let's give it to the Viking woman. She was probably taking care of her husband and her family.
Yeah, and Joan of Arc comes to mind too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very interesting story. Maybe we should do some work on that one, because the Joan of Arc story it's very fascinating. How that?
Yeah, that's Hal said. Look at the wives of ISIS. Yeah, those women, the ISIS people, those women don't think anything about blowing themselves up. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not comparing any of these other women to the downtrodden women that's married to the Islamic State, but
radical Islam, yeah.
But still, they wore it.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the any Jalagi woman would pick up the war axe if the community was overrun, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, take care of that husband. If that husband fails, she's going to take care of him. She's going to take care of those children, and that's just the way it is. I can fight more with the best of them, can't I, baby?
That's right. I guess I was just trying to point out how science as an institution is extremely resistant to any kind of evidence that goes against their conceived notions. That's true in medicine. It's true in history. Any kind of science. They just, and what's sad is that take that to the next step is the fact that we don't have real science anymore. We have corporate science. Whoever gets paid to come to the proper conclusion. That's your science today.
Mm-hmm.
So when they circle the wagons around completely bogus and corrupted information, what does that do? It creates what? A chaotic situation, doesn't it?
Yep.
So you see, it goes back to that central theme about the purveyors of chaos. And everyone wants to point to the poor old oops.
God.
Everyone wants to point to the poor old anarchist.
Sorry, I apologize about that. I thought I had all the phones cut off.
Everybody wants to point to the poor old anarchist as the one who sows chaos, but it turns out that that's probably the opposite of the truth. All right. Yeah, Kurdish women, Hal. That's exactly right. Yeah, there are a couple of actually really good photo articles about the Kurd women, and I tell you what, those ISIS folks don't want to get caught by the Kurd women.
Them some mighty women.
Yeah, the Kurds ain't no joke to start with, but when the women get involved, they don't have any trouble flaying you, flaying, Flaying, and look that one up. You don't know what it means. It's not very pleasant. But anyway, Gigi's Boo, got about 10 minutes or so. You want to talk about the good stuff?
Well, I want to touch on one thing that we were talking about how things have changed and how science has progressed. A pharmacist nowadays has to go 4 years to college, and then they have to go to so many years to pharmaceutical school. And all they do is disperse medication that's already been prepared by the drug companies. I had the unique opportunity to talk to a pharmacist who was in their 90s. And he went to college, and he only went 2 years to pharmaceutical school. That's all that was required back then. And he sat down and step by step and told me how they mixed their own medications from powders. If the doctor ordered so much penicillin, which that didn't come around until the 40s, but they were still mixing stuff in the 40s and early 50s. And how they had to weigh it and how they had to measure it and how it had to be mixed with something. And it was done all on marble. they said. It was done on a marble slab. And they had to grind things in a mortar and a pedestal sometimes with that. And I found that so fascinating that they made it. I mean, I had heard of it, but had never had the opportunity of talking to somebody who had actually done that. Well, I in turn talked to a pharmacist not too long ago that was right out of school that was working. And I asked him, I said, is there any medication that a doctor would write that you would have to mix from scratch? And he looked at me like I had landed from another world. He was totally aghast at me. And he said, why would they order anything like that? Everything's already made up. And I said, so you're telling me if a doctor orders something that you would have to mix, let's just give me a hypothetical question. You got to mix. Could you do it? He blatantly told me no. They never taught him that. And I said, okay, then why did they send you to school 2 more years than did the pharmacists back in the day when they mixed all that? He said, don't know. Can't answer that. He said, I wouldn't even have a clue how to do it. And I thought, oh my God, these people, all they know to do is to pass out these pills that the pharmaceutical company gives you. And half of them don't even know the side effects. They don't know the side effects. So has science progressed or have we digressed? We've digressed. Yeah, Hal, it's compounding. Yeah. Yeah, they can't compound anymore. That's something that they don't know. Okay, on to my story. Everybody there? Gary, you there?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. I wanted to touch a little bit. We were talking about the hurricanes. We got another one coming behind it. And I wanted to touch a little bit. We touched a couple of weeks ago on Southern hospitality and how things were run in the South. It's a lot different in the Southern states than it is most anywhere else. Brother knows brother, and you consider your neighbor your brother. Even in a time of turmoil, we can stick together. Okay, when people were fleeing Florida, they really did a good job this time getting them out. And they told them to leave, not to wait. Now, if they chose, they told them, you stay, you're on your own. We can't get to you if something happens. And I called around about the time that they started evacuating, and even motels in the upstate were already booked. People had booked them. And we got a lot of wind and gale force winds. And we had some trees down and out toward Greenville, which is about 50 miles away. There was some down trees and power lines and things. But on the whole, we fared pretty good, just with some tree limbs down. And I don't think anybody actually lost power in this area. If it did, it was a short time. There's nothing major. But as the people began to come out of Florida into Georgia and into the Carolinas, the Carolina coast evacuated and came inland too. So everything was filled. The gas tanks ran out here. They were bringing tankers in because they had tried to get everybody out of Florida and Georgia and the coastline and get them all in. So they were bringing extra fuel in. And there was no price gouging in this area. There was major price gouging in Florida. And there was a story that really touched me about how people along the route of the evacuees on the major highways, like 95, if you had to come up the coast, or come up 85 on up into Atlanta up that way and come up from that area. They had people, Southern people, who just went to these exits and they set up coolers, and they were pulling people that were so tired they hadn't had anything to eat, people with small children, and people set up grills, and they were grilling hamburger meat, hot dogs, they had water, everything was free. They never charged for one thing. And I said, that's really, really good. In one area in Valdosta, Georgia, they stood on the side to let people know of the interstate. If you're hungry, there's free food for you. Please come in. I know in our area, after all the motels filled up, to accommodate the people from our coast, we had churches that opened up the recreational building, and we got cots and things like that. And the churches were there cooking food. And I thought this is a very good humanitarian thing that people are doing, and giving out free water and doing in food, because one girl walked up and said that she had completely ran out of Pampers. She had about 4 packs of Pampers, but she had 3 children in diapers, and people were getting supplies to them. And I was wondering, what would have happened if nobody had stepped up and helped this? People were running out of gas. People were running out of money, because by the time they were getting ready to evacuate, the teller machines were already out. So all they had that was in their pocket. So they helped them get money. They helped them get gas. They helped with water, food, and they even had dog food there. And they had what I thought was really cute. They had pee-pee poles stuck up for dogs, boy dogs who just had to. So people were bringing everything in. And I know it was really a great, great thing to see people pull together. Now, we got another storm that's brewing now, and they're saying that it's going to hit the mid-Atlantic. We're considered south, but just right up into North Carolina, it starts being the mid-Atlantic. So they're watching it. We don't know what that's going to bring, but we're going to be ready. And we tell everybody, evacuate. Don't stay. Don't try to be a hero. You can replace material things. Get you important papers and keep them together. That's one thing I can say about my mother and myself. We keep all the Social Security cards together. We keep all the birth certificate, all the insurance cards and everything, and we keep them dry in something that can stay dry. All of the important pictures from our childhood all through the years, we've got all that waterproofed. And that's one thing that we know to grab with our bug out bag, and everything else if we have to flee, that we've got those papers. So everybody be remembering what's going to hit the East Coast again. And let's hope that we can stay positive and we can do something for everybody that comes in. I wouldn't advise anybody to take anybody into your home, but there's shelters and there's lots of places they can go, and you can always give them kind of a helping hand to get on their feet a little bit and get where they're going. Sometimes it's hard. People don't understand. Children don't understand. And I know when we had them up this far, one of the big churches had movies for them to see. They took them to the skating rink. The local skating rink opened up, and all the evacuated children, their parents could go up there, they could skate. And this helped get them off to something where they weren't afraid. It's a very frightening thing to be displaced, even as an adult, but a child, they don't always understand. And it was very sad. I know they had called us and asked us if we could take care of a couple of dogs if it needed to be, because we've got a big fenced-in yard, and we told them, yeah, we'd have to separate them from ours, because ours are very territorial. And we would have had to done that, but we could have taken care of them. We could have housed them, took care of them real good. But they were calling around asking for all kind of things, and we were here to help. But just keep us in your positive thoughts, and if you're praying, keep us in your prayers for the next storm that comes through. Now, we were talking about dogs, and I'm going to finish up with this. Dogs are very important. Of course, I'm Wolf Clan, so naturally, I'm crazy about dogs and their families to us, but they did a study not long ago that allowing your dogs to sleep with you is actually good for you. Now, doesn't matter. They didn't track the breed. They didn't track how many people were in the bed. But our bed could get very, very crowded. Gary and my bed, because we have a couple dogs that do like to flounder up, sleep with us. But the Mayo Clinic suggested that people who had pets and they let them sleep with them, and they did a study on 40 adults with their dogs for 7 nights. They put motion tracking devices on both the pups and the humans. And it said on the average that people with dogs maintained an 83% sleep efficiency, while people with dogs didn't. They maintained only an 80% efficiency. I think Gary might beg to differ because they get hoggish and almost knock us off the bed, but they're going to stake out their part. But I found that was very interesting because dogs are great companions, not only to you, to your children, to your family, to your property. I always tell people the best burglar system you can start with is have you a good barking dog. And ours can hear things that we can't hear. We have security cameras up. And if our oldest dog's head rises and she sits up, we automatically know that she's hearing something that we can't hear. So we investigate. And sure enough, she's never proved us wrong. I'm not saying that they're in the house or the yard, but they're near, and she knows it, and she lets us know. So I'm going to let Gary take back over because our time's up, but I just want to tell all of you that I love you big to my heart, and be sure to take the road less traveled.
And to answer the phone when it rings. Thanks for that, Gigi Spook. Very, very interesting, and probably when you think about it, it's not that surprising. Being and we're all social and we're all related, right? As you said earlier, we all originally spoke the same language, so it's not surprising that could happen. But anyway, yeah, that's our time for tonight, and about time for us to head on out of here. And thanks for joining us on The Road Less Traveled. We won't be here next Sunday. Seems my son Nate and his fiancée Lauren decided to get married next Sunday, or next Saturday, but it's a whole weekend long thing. So anyway, we'll be back after that, and look forward to seeing you here on The Road Less Traveled. So take care. Bye-bye.